Hi class, this is Social Service 215, Social Problems and Social Actions. This is PowerPoint for Chapter 1, Sociology and Social Problems. So the sociological study of social problems. So sociology is the study of social behavior in human societies. Social problems may include many issues. For example, poverty, social discrimination, crime, etc. Social problems are social conditions, events, or patterns of behavior that negatively affect the well-being of a significant number of people. Belief that the condition, event, or pattern needs to be changed. Patterns and trends, harmful conditions, events, behaviors discussed in terms of patterns and trends. Data sources include collections of information used to determine patterns. Trends can be shown visibly in charts, tables, or graphs. So you have objective and subjective aspects. Objectives are concrete data of social problems. Subjective is what people define as social problems. So this brings forth an important concept of social criticism, which is the process of people defining a social problem into existence. Here we talk about the rank order, the problem, and the percentage. You look at the sociological study of social problems. So rank order 1, you see government, poor leadership, 32% believe that's a problem. 2 is immigration, 11%. 3 is healthcare. 4 is unifying the country. And 6 is environmental pollution and climate change. So this is an example of a spot map provided to you by the textbook here. So please review. And again, so we have types of actions. So you have social structure, which are pattern of interrelated social institutes. Things are interrelated, meaning a change in one will provide a change in the next. Social movements, efforts to solve social problems with change, and actions consist of helping with material relief and non-material services. So the sociological imagination is the awareness of history and social structure required to understand personal hardships and feelings. Um, Social imagination requires a global perspective and allows us to go beyond our immediate environments and understand major structures. It's very systemic, it's a large scale, a very macro level, very systemic. So sociological research, so you have many different sources here that which are identified, so please refer to your book. Um, just a couple here are the General Social Survey, the National Center for Education Statistics, National Center for Health Statistics, Pew Research Center, United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, United States Census Bureau. Right, so then we have quantitative research, which is empirical investigation of social problems through statistical analysis. So this is numbers. I always think quantitative research is things you can measure numerically. So that's how I remember it too. So when you see the term empirical, you can also replace that with numerical or numbers to help you always remember it. So research methods are techniques for obtaining information. So how you obtain or the methods used to obtain your research. Survey research are surveys. Respondents are asked questions on written questionnaires. Questionnaires are a set of questions presented to respondents for answers. Questions asked measure variables such as attitude, behaviors, and statuses. Participant observation is when the researcher observes and studies the people in everyday settings. Researcher gains a deep understanding and familiarity with working of a particular group, community, or social event. And then we have interviewing, a form of data collection in which the researcher asks a series of questions, responses treated quantitatively, so numerically, or qualitatively. So then we have the mixed methods, is what we often see. And these methods often combine to achieve a fuller picture of social problems being studied. So they mix all those methods or some form of those methods to get a fuller picture of the social problem being studied or reviewed. So a theory is just a collection of related concepts. Concepts, of course, are ideas sociologists have about aspects of the social world, and they are the building blocks of theories. And then you have paradigms, which are theoretical perspectives. And then we talk about structural functionalism, a theory that consists of how social phenomena function to maintain unity and order in society. The benefits of social institutions versus dysfunction. So you have several theorists like Mr. Herbert Spencer, Talcott Parsons, and Robert K. Morton. And then conflict theory is an additional theory which focuses on dissent, coercion, and antagonism in society. Karl Marx um, talks about a conflict between capitalists and workers and systems of capitalism. Very interesting, his perspective. And then you have Ralph Darnrendarth, talks about conflicts between organized interest groups. So as you can see, these are large-scale um, topics that these authors or theorists are talking about, these conflict theories. Symbolic interactionalism are sociological perspectives. Society product, so they say society is a product of symbols and social interactions. So you have George Herbert Mead as the relationship between the mind, the symbols, and the self is what society is. And examples include the looking glass self and the self-fulfilling prophecy. Please familiarize yourself, especially with the looking glass self and the self-fulfilling prophecies. Structural functionalism and suicide. So these are applying the three theories to social problems: structural functionalism and suicide. You have Emily Durkin, classic study on social problems of suicide, social integration versus social regulation. And you have four types of social suicide: altruistic, egotistic, fatalistic, and anemic. So please refer to your book and understand those concepts or review in detail. You have conflict theory, talks about and alcoholism. So the culture, they say it's a style of life. The theory of Mr. Joseph Gusfeld is a middle-class Protestant attempt to reform drinking habits of lower-class Irish and Italian Catholics and German Lutherans. So please read more about this in your book. And then persuasion attempts versus legislative reform. So one includes the government, the legislative reform, or laws, and persuasion typically includes people-to-people or groups-to-group interactions. Symbolic interactionalism and precarious living. So we have Waverly Duck, an examination of who examines a poor African American neighborhood and interaction order. So lifestyle shaped by the residents' interactions to help them cope, and residents move safely through their community. Social revolution, total and complete transformation in the social structure of a society. Social policy, clearly articulated, usually written set of strategies for addressing a social problem. And you have types of social policy or legislation, organizational guidelines, so be familiar with those. And we talk about service sociology and social problems. So early days of U.S. sociology beginning in the 12th century had two basic forms, which is the study of sociological theory and the practice of ameliorative reform and service. And you had the settlement houses, which was big with Jane Addams, our social worker. So neighborhood centers provide services to poor immigrants. And service sociology, socially responsible mission-oriented sociology of action and alleviation. And cultural service includes various forms of civic engagement, community service, and volunteerism.